So today the big news in the Mariners universe was that they signed Nelson Cruz to a 4-year, $57 million deal. In this video, I'm just going to give my pros and cons and how I feel about the deal. So, a pro about the signing is that the Mariners finally found a right-handed power bat, which is what their top priority was in the offseason this year. They tried signing Victor Martinez, but he stayed with the Tigers. They like Billy Butler, but he went to the rival A's on a 3-year, $30 million deal. So instead, they signed Nelson Cruz. And last year, Nelson Cruz led Major League Baseball with 40 home runs and 108 RBIs. It's pretty good. I mean, if they can get that out of Nelson Cruz, this deal will be pretty good. Another pro is that Nelson Cruz can provide some protection in the middle lineup between Cano and Seager. Last year, the Mariners didn't really have much between Cano and Seager. They tried bring Corey Hart after he tore his both of his knees, and they tried putting him in there again to see if he'd be healthy, but it didn't work out. And when he was healthy, he hardly produced. So in the middle of the season, they traded for Kendrys Morales, and he was pretty awful too. And so now with Nelson Cruz, the team will actually have someone to pencil in between Cano and Seager that will give them a cleanup hitter. Another good thing about Nelson Cruz is he provides some veteran leadership for this young team. I mean, a lot of these guys have been here, like Cano and Felix and Iwakuma, but there are a lot of young guys on this team like Taijuan Walker, James Paxton, Dustin Ackley, Mike Zunino, like other youngsters like Chris Taylor and Brad Miller. Having another veteran in the team just gives some leadership, and he has experience, so he knows how to play the game. And a good thing that we learned last year about Nelson Cruz is that he can actually hit without taking performance-enhancing drugs. He was suspended for 50 games in 2013 for the biogenesis scandal, and he admitted to actually taking a drug that helped him with a bacterial infection he had, and the infection actually made him almost lose 40 pounds during the 2011-2012 offseason. So with last year, it proved that Nelson Cruz can actually hit without having to take these PEDs. I mean, and another thing is that Nelson Cruz has proved in the past that he can have an OPS above 800, and the Mariners really haven't had a DH with a 800 OPS since Edgar Martinez retired in 2004. Now let's move on to probably the negatives/cons of this deal. One con is that Nelson Cruz is 34 years old. This deal will go till he is about like 38, 39, and as Cruz gets older, he's just gonna break down more, and he won't be able to hit as well as he's done in the past. And it's just, if the Mariners can get some out of him in the next 2 years and go to playoffs, and he hopefully helps the team, this will be a pretty good deal. But if the Mariners miss the playoffs all 4 years of Cruz, and Cruz isn't contributing at all, this deal will look pretty bad on their part, because now their payroll is estimated above $100 million, and it's a lot of money. I mean, they just signed Seager to a 7-year, $100 million extension. Cano was signed that $240 million deal last year. Felix got an extension a couple years ago. They already have a lot of players locked up with a lot of money. So, it would be a surprise if Cruz can actually help this team at his age, or if he just brings the team down even more. Another con about Cruz is that he strikes out an awful lot and hardly makes up for it in walks. Last year, Cruz only walked 55 times, and he struck out 140 times. I mean, power hitters normally don't really walk a lot, but 140 strikeouts is really close to like a Mark Reynolds 200K strikeout season. And as Cruz gets older, his plate discipline is probably just going to get worse, and who knows how bad he will strike out and how less walks he will take. If Cruz can actually find a way to stay in that pace, I don't expect Cruz to walk a lot more than he did last year. But if Cruz could stay where he was last year, probably for like the next 2 years, I guess it'll be okay. But you don't really want to see him strike out a lot because that will just limit the amount of runs he drives in, and the Mariners will not want that to happen for their cleanup hitter. Another bad thing about Cruz, he is known for being a horrible defensive player. Last year, Cruz's defensive WAR was a -7, according to Baseball Reference. And as I said before, as Cruz gets older, his skills will diminish. And we don't really know for sure if the Mariners are going to play him a lot in the outfield, or if he's going to be a full-time DH. But I hope that the Mariners will keep him as a designated hitter, because if they put Cruz out on the field, it's just going to weaken their outfield, and you don't want that to happen because they want to win more games and lose more games. Another con is Cruz will probably not hit as well as he did last year with the 40 home runs and 108 RBIs. I mean, Safeco Field, the dimensions are a little bit bigger than Camden Yards, but as this one of my guys I follow on Twitter named Brian Scott, you can go check him out at Briscoe811. That's BRISCO 811. He retweeted this picture earlier that the dimensions of Safeco Field were not that much bigger than Camden Yards, but as people know, when players go to Safeco Field, they are known to actually get worse, and because it's like a pitcher's ballpark, so when a hitter goes there, they're not gonna hit as many home runs as they did, let's say like Coors Field or Angel Stadium in Anaheim. So I know it's unlikely that Cruz will replicate his 2013 season. So hopefully he can be good. Maybe 25 home runs and 80 RBIs, or at least it'd be nice if he get 100 RBIs. I highly doubt that will happen. But if he can replicate his 2013 season, that will be unbelievable, because a lot of people don't expect it to happen, and I myself don't expect Cruz to be as good as he was last year. And going into my final con of this video is that the money they gave Cruz is pretty expensive for a DH. I know Victor Martinez is making a lot more money, but Cruz is making more than Billy Butler, even though Billy Butler had a down season last year. But Cruz is making $14.25 million a year average, and that's a lot for the Mariners to be paying. I know they just got this new TV deal, all these new things they're trying to implement in Major League Baseball to bring in more revenue for these teams, but to pay a 34-year-old player $14.25 million a year is just pretty expensive, because he's going to get older, like I've said before, and those skills could just get worse. And he could be sitting on the bench, possibly. He could be like Kendrys Morales was last year. I mean, Kendrys Morales was on the bench, but he was a down player last year. I mean, he just brought the team down. And Mariners definitely don't. They hope that Cruz could change the name of the game for their designated hitter position and possibly bring them to playoffs last year. Because if they had Cruz last year, there's no doubt that they would have made the playoffs. Well, thank you all for listening to this video, and you can go check out my blog. It's called Mocha Mariners, and you can follow me on Twitter at ddormm. Thank you.